Senator Hertzberg, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You have SB 838. Anytime you're ready, you may begin.
Long time no see.
Absolutely, right.
Okay, this is 838, to accept the amendments.
Yes.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I know you know this, Mr. Chair, and this committee certainly seems, certainly Mr. Obernolte is an expert in so much of this. Look, the world is changing at a breakneck speed, and one of the challenges that we face in government is we just don't harmonize with that change. We're a reactive organization. It's something like the top of the fintech top 50 companies, 11 of those under Forbes' list are blockchain companies. Then we generally look at blockchain and we hear the term and we only associate it with the idea of bitcoins, and it's not that at all. It's a way to reorganize some of the challenges that we face with the internet. What is the internet? The internet has provided explosively valuable aspects to our lives. All across the world, people in countries that couldn't get access to stuff it's just unbelievable. And certainly this committee just dealt with the issue of privacy, which is one of the challenges imposed by the internet. But in addition to the privacy issue, the underlying issue is security. What the blockchain does, if you have enough energy, it basically reorganizes how the internet information is being accessed. In essence, in the simplest terms, if you have a block of information, each block of information is stamped in time with a unique timestamp. Each is particularly stamped with a particular code. And then each is coded to the piece of information before it and after it. So I wouldn't say it's impossible, because there's, I think somehow in the future, but it certainly provides an extraordinary level of security that we don't otherwise have. Second, and this is a little out there, but I've been known to live on the moon once in a while, I think it's going to be a big step forward toward democratization, economic opportunity in the internet. What's happened in the internet? A handful of people have been able to make so much money. Billions and billions and tens of billions of dollars. Why? Because they're controlling the advertising, they're controlling a zillion eyeballs. The average person doesn't get a piece of that. So I think what's going to happen with blockchain, the notion is called tokenization, but basically you're going to be able to get paid for it, just like you get rewards points for using your credit card or mileage or something like that. You're going to see a similar system. It's starting to happen around the country, and the blockchain will allow that to happen. So what have I done with this bill? I'm trying to introduce this very complex concept into government. I tried to introduce it with title. I met with the ambassador to Vanuatu, and he's doing all of his title on blockchain. But here we've got entrenched interests, and there's no way, because we're going to kill off the title insurance companies if we do that, because you're not going to need a title insurance company to pay for insurance. I tried to do it with driver's licenses and birth certificates, but I got all the blowback from government telling me how hard it's going to be. So how do I stick my toe in the water on blockchain to begin to introduce it in the conversation in the legislative process? And so what I did in this bill was allow companies to, on their private companies, to organize their stock ledgers with the blockchain. Pretty small deal. Now, why is that important, and how does that have an actual government purpose today? I'll give you two examples and I'll close. A couple of years ago, we had the Treasurer's Office had a situation where somebody had some bond money in San Francisco. I can't recall the specifics. It's probably in my notes, but I don't really look at my notes very often. But basically says that ripped off some deal by forming a parallel account. For those who know, who've been lawyers, who've been in business, know that what happens if you want to open an account, let's assume you've got Ed Chow Incorporated Company, and you got 20 checks coming in a day. If one of your employees wants to rip you off, they simply take the articles of incorporation to the bank. They dummy up a unanimous written consent or a resolution saying you're authorized to have Hertzberg sign on the account. I open up a parallel account. And then I steal checks from the Ed Chow Company, and I put them in the parallel account. Well, if you had as we asked for in this bill, a statement on, if you elected to do blockchain, and you had a statement on your articles of incorporation, when you went to that bank, and you asked that bank to open an account, they would say, well, you're a shareholder. will show us the ledger. You couldn't dummy it up. You couldn't take a stock certificate out of the back of the book and steal it and phony it up and use a seal and make a phony certificate. This basically has some value in that respect. Secondly, there was a company in Orange County. I believe it was in Irvine or Tustin. I can't recall the specifics, but it's in the notes somewhere in the analysis, I think. And basically what they were doing was phoning up stock share certificates and selling phony shares. Same kind of thing. You wouldn't be able to do it if the companies did that. So it does have some near-term benefits. It was, in my judgment, the least intrusive manner in which we could begin to introduce this concept into government. And with that, I turn it over to my handsome witness who's going to blow your socks off.
Thank you very much. First witness, please.
Thank you, Senator Hertzberg. Good morning, committee. Thank you for having me. I'm Joseph Harrell, and I'm the founder of Cage Chain. Cage Chain is a cryptocurrency and blockchain technology research firm. And I'm also here representing the Blockchain Advocacy Coalition. I am a formerly fully registered, FINRA-registered investment advisor and trader. I have earned an advanced degree in business when I began researching blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. I have authored a paper on these subjects as well before starting the consultancy Cage Chain. I have heard about questions you all have regarding Senate Bill 838. A blockchain is a digital ledger tool that enables data to be stored or transferred securely using bank-grade security. I am in support of this bill as it allows businesses to grow and develop in an innovative way using blockchain technology and its security and verification features. This bill will also allow jobs to be created and form a new source of tax revenue for the state of California. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to any questions you may have. Thank you for having me.
Thank you much. Additional supporters, please come forward. Seeing none, opposition? Seeing none, let's bring back to the committee. Questions, comments? Bill's been moved and seconded. No additional comments. I want to thank you, Senator Hertzberg, for bringing this bill forward. I agree with you that blockchain has a lot of potentials that will help protect consumer privacy as well as security. And I know that other states have been looking at using blockchain technology in various aspects. I think you mentioned a couple already. For example, driver's registration, and I think the state of West Virginia is looking
voting.
Absolutely, voting, absolutely. So I think it has a great deal of potential. And the other thing that I was thinking about was whether or not blockchain could potentially be used to combat ransomware. I know you worked on that as well. And
100%.
Currently, I think we're at the mercy of these folks, perpetrators. In essence, when a business is hit with ransomware, there's no remedy. I mean, I think all they could do is to go back to the last version of the backup. And generally speaking, the backup is as good as the last backup. So depending on when they do the backup, so hospitals are being falling victims to ransomware and all that. So this is potentially a something that we could use to combat ransomware. So I'm very excited about Mr. Calderon's bill, also 2658, which is going to do a study. So that will tell us exactly how the technology can be used. So I'm very excited to put California ahead of the curve also. Mr. Calderon?
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you for the bill, and I'm glad we're working together on this issue. It's a really important issue. I mean, just to be able to frame the conversation is that a lot of these companies that are already here in California that are doing blockchain, they don't have certainty because there's a lack of regulation, and they're terrified of what the federal government will or will not do. And so they want us as a state to regulate them, to create some definitions that allows them the ability to kind of do their work. There are other states that have done some definitional work on blockchain and the technology, and these companies have gone there and opened up, doing things in farming countries and farming states and farming communities. And so this is a huge opportunity for our state that if we don't do something now, if we don't do something to allow these companies to work with some type of ability to feel less stress that the federal government's going to do something because there is state regulation, there's state definitions. It's a huge opportunity for the state of California. And this is the type of technology that's going to allow us to one day vote from our cell phones, which is going to be heavily increased turnout. I know the Secretary of State's actually working on this issue right now. And so it's a huge opportunity for this state. And so we need the work, and I appreciate the work with being able to work with you on the issue.
So with that, Senator, would you like to close?
Yeah, Senator Caroline, it is a huge issue. And Mr. Chairman, it's unbelievable. Estonia is doing incredible things. West Virginia's voting only occurred because Bradley Tusk, who was the campaign person for Mayor Bloomberg, actually paid for a lot of the system himself. And it's a great challenge. It's hard for us to modernize and to push the envelope. We just experienced it in privacy, where status quo folks, are holding up the system. And I want to share with you that this is the first in the many steps that we have to take in the technology space all across the board to be leaders. And I think, as Mr. Calderon suggested, the federal government's not going to act in the near term. It's too challenging. And this is a place where we can be incubators. And I would suggest that California has the opportunity to be an extraordinary incubator, because if we can lead on this stuff, you're going to see states all across the country taking this on and really setting a standard. So I'm proud to be involved with this, and I thank you very much and look forward to working with you as for an I vote.
Thank you, Senator. With that, there's been motion and seconded as well. So, Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Motion is due, pass as amended to the Assembly floor. Chow.
Aye.
Chow, aye. Kiley. Baker. Aye. Baker, aye. Berman. Calderon. Aye. Calderon, aye. Gabriel. Irwin. Aye. Irwin, aye. Mullen. Aye. Mullen, aye. Obernolte. Aye. Obernolte, aye. Reyes.
Your bill is out 6-0. We'll leave the roll open. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
That brings us to the last bill today, and that's SB 1194. Senator Lara, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'd like to start by accepting the amendment referred on page 5 of the committee analysis to ensure that businesses and peace officers are aware that such disclosure of information is optional if no warrant, subpoena, or court order is provided, or if no exigent circumstance are present. So I want to thank you for your work on that. Members, SB 1197 simply ensures that guest and passenger records of California patrons of lodging establishments and private bus companies are not disclosed to third parties or other than a California peace officer, and of course that would be without needing a court-ordered subpoena or warrant. The bill aligns with California's longstanding privacy protections and responds to recent incidents in nearby states that highlight the need for these targeted additional privacy protections. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you very much. First witness, please.
Maya Ingram, legislative attorney with the ACLU of California. We're pleased to co-sponsor this bill. We think it adds targeted additional privacy protections that align with California's existing law. Similar protections have already been afforded in other areas. We created the Reader Privacy Act that creates privacy protections around people's reading lists. And to just kind of go into a little more detail about the incidents that Senator Lara alludes to, in Washington State, Motel 6 breached the privacy of over 10,000 of their guests' names, and they turned them over to ICE, the names, birth dates, driver's license numbers, license plate numbers, and room numbers. In Arizona, they were generating lists of everyone that was staying in their hotel each night and sending it over to ICE every morning. This resulted in people being picked up from their rooms, couples separated, one deported immediately, the other still in detention. And this was all done despite Motel 6 having a corporate policy saying that the information it gathered during their visits was to be kept private. And we think that that is why these common sense protections should be given to California consumers. So when they travel through our state or spend a night in one of our hotels, their information is safe. And we respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you much. Next witness, please.
Gina Da Silva, Government Affairs Director with the California Immigrant Policy Center. We're pleased to support SB 1194. We must continue to ensure that we put in place protections against these efforts to tear apart families and deport Californians who have helped shape our state and contribute to the success of our economy. We see a growing number of headlines, but we also hear a number of community stories from Californians that share, incidents of racial profiling and extreme fear for themselves and their loved ones. We know that these federal agencies have a long demonstrated track record of lying to the public, of lying to elected officials. And we feel that these are important and appropriate privacy protections to really ensure that Californians can continue to participate and enjoy everyday life. These are consistent with our values, our efforts to protect all Californians, and our resistance against the imprisonment and deportation of Californians who call our state home. We thank Senator Lara for continuing to champion these efforts, and we urge your support.
Thank you very much. Additional supporters?
Andrew Medina with Asian Americans Advancing Justice California, and strong support.
Thank you. Next, please.
Johan Cardenas on behalf of Chila and here in strong support.
Thank you much. Next, please.
Alejandra Duran representing NextGen California in support.
Thank you. Opposition? Seeing none, let's bring it back to the committee. Questions? Ms. Baker, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator, I supported AB 450 and some of the other efforts to make sure that there is due process when federal law enforcement come to the home, to school campuses, to workplace settings. So I certainly appreciate the emphasis your bill has on just trying to ensure that there is due process. At least that's how I read it. But I do have a concern that I wonder if you could address, please, on those third parties not being ICE, but being the federal marshal, being U.S. attorneys, being federal law enforcement and task force that are working to connect with those who are human traffickers. And particularly because we're talking about lodgings and buses. And human trafficking, as you probably know, is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the United States. The California has 3 of the FBI's top 10 human trafficking locations. Traffickers utilize hotels, they utilize bus systems, and I don't want us to do anything, personally, that is going to create barriers between our law enforcement at the federal level, and you may want them to be other than ICE, to be able to be part of task forces or independently be able to fight crime that is happening. And this basically is the possibility that the bill is potentially overbroad. If the goal is to prohibit raids at hotels and buses, and I have supported our efforts that the legislature has done to prevent just the rounding up of otherwise innocent people. We should be focusing on those who are committing crimes. Can you address that, please? Because the way I read the bill is it does prohibit the ability of other federal law enforcement, other than ICE, to be able to conduct those efforts unless they go through a California peace officer, which then burdens our California law enforcement system and almost forces them to have to be the ones to do it. Can you address that, please?
Sure, we can have our ACLU folks.
So the data that's being protected here is the actual guest record or the passenger record, and not the actual person. So it wouldn't stop anyone from effectuating an arrest warrant for an individual, and a federal officer that you described can still get that guest record or passenger information with a court order or a warrant. And then the final section of the bill has an exigent circumstances when there's a threat to bodily safety or injury that allows them to get this information without getting a court order or warrant.
Thank you. And perhaps to the Senator, I appreciate that. My, again, read, and tell me if I'm correct, is that we're trying to avoid basically immigration raids at hotels and buses. And we want, because I heard the testimony, at least from the supporting witnesses, that this is very much, we want to protect, these agencies have lied, I think it was said, and that they're going after people and we're trying to resist. And why then put up any barrier, if that's the goal, why put up any barriers between non-ICE law enforcement and even keep them from being able to, why put hoops that they have to now jump through in order to fight crime that is outside of an immigration policy? Why put those hoops before them? Why is that necessary if the goal is to be protecting people from ICE raids, which, again, I am very sympathetic to?
Right. Well, we're trying to protect the data, as our witnesses were saying. I mean, what we're seeing is in certain states, literally, if you had a Spanish last name, your name automatically got on the list and then got sent to ICE. And that's what we're trying to prevent. I mean, we don't want to, obviously we want to do everything we can to help in the efforts of human trafficking, but we feel that it's the data that we're trying to protect here, and that's the goal of the bill.
Have you considered just limiting its reach to ICE instead of all third party? I mean, because that is very broad. Again, I'm not trying to amend your bill on the fly in committee,
Right.
but is there a reason why you have not made it that narrow and surgical?
I mean, while the bill is also has a lot of focus on ICE, it is also just good privacy protection to limit disclosure of this very sensitive information. You turn over a lot of data to book a hotel room or book a bus ticket, and so we thought, this structure gives good privacy protections in all sense for all consumers of their data, and thought it struck a reasonable balance on who it allows disclosures to in the context that it allows disclosures to with a court order or warrant. If someone is targeting a group of individuals in a human trafficking investigation, it seems that there would be the ability to get warrants for this information.
Okay, I'm hearing it seems it would be the ability to get warrants. You may be correct. That's very theoretical, and I'm thinking of who are the victims of human trafficking, how prevalent it is, how easy it is to skirt law enforcement in so many ways, how difficult the crimes are to prosecute. And if the goal is data protection, it's just good policy to have it beyond ICE. We've actually been passing them today. And in this committee, and this state has very rigorous privacy protections now for, best practices to protect consumer data. I'm going to lay off today in great hope that you will consider narrowing this much more surgically. We absolutely should not up hoops between enforcement to victims of crime, and they use these ledgers, they use this information to track down rings. I've had 3 human trafficking rings broken up in my district just in the last 3 years. And so I really strongly encourage that because I do think it's overbroad, and I think the original goal of protecting people in their workplace, I'm with you. So I really hope you can do that. Thank you.
Ms. Irwin, go ahead.
That was an interesting discussion. I'm sort of surprised that these, if we're just talking about privacy, that these ledgers are not already protected, that they are available to anybody that asks for them. And specifically on your concerns, I guess I can ask the question, if you have a human trafficking ring, generally, isn't it local or California law enforcement that's going after it, not necessarily the feds? And if it's the feds, wouldn't they be partnering with local law enforcement? How are we usually dealing with situations like that?
I'm sorry, that's not my area of expertise, but I'd be happy to look into that with people who work in that field. I imagine it is locals that are often doing the enforcement of that. But
so the locals, if they think there's a crime, can still get the ledger, and there's no restrictions at all. And for the feds, if it happens they're involved without the locals, they can just get a subpoena, correct?
A court order or warrant, yes.
Right.
And what the situation is right now, that ledger is available to almost any agency, which to me seems like a privacy issue. So I understand that this bill is to protect, that the information was being turned over to ICE, I think is terrible. But we also have to look at the privacy part. Those ledgers shouldn't be available to just any agency. It should be people that are going after criminals. So.
Yeah, we agree.
But it would be good to have the statistics on if you're talking about human trafficking. We certainly don't.
We will definitely get you that information, and we'll do some more research and follow up with Senator Baker on her important issue she brought up today.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Sure.
If it could include, I think it's an important question as you're looking at this. Is what other law enforcement, for what purpose do other federal agencies, if we want to get this right, that seems like homework the sponsor should do. And that so that we really know what we might be impairing. It could be a variety of law enforcement is completely unrelated to human trafficking and immigration enforcement. It could be a variety of fraud crimes. There's just a lot. And so I would encourage to really look at and get a good understanding of what federal law enforcement otherwise uses it for. And again,
Mr. O'Bonnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a different concern with the bill. The enforcement in this private right of action, where someone who is subjected to an unauthorized breach of their information then can bring a civil action against the agency that we have passed recently in this hearing today have, a similar subject matter, but they entrust the enforcement to attorney generals, city attorneys, and district attorneys. And I think in cases like this, that's a more appropriate venue because a data breach by an agency is likely to be not just one or two people, but a whole class of people. And it seemed like avoiding those kind of systemic abuses would be better handled by someone like an attorney. Why you didn't go that route and instead created a private right of action in this bill?
We think that both remedies are appropriate here. This type of disclosure wouldn't be a data breach situation. It's when the actual hotel or bus company voluntarily turns this information over. So they have control over their actions, and this law puts them on clear notice that such disclosure is not permitted. And so we think if they were to take that affirmative step despite that, then having the option of a private right of action for individuals who are harmed by this is appropriate, while still allowing for all the other enforcement mechanisms by district attorneys, city's attorneys, and the attorney general.
Does the bill actually allow that? Because I don't read that in the bill.
I believe it does. We can look into that and make sure. And I don't think there's any prohibition on those agencies enforcing any laws that are on their
Okay, well, I didn't read anything about that. But I'll tell you my concern, and it's something that we've seen in other areas in consumer protection law, which is that you have, we're all on the same team. We want to enforce strong consumer protections, but we know that we have predatory law firms out there that are looking for excuses to institute class action lawsuits, and they have a profit motive. Their motive is not enforcement of the law. Their motive is to make money. And they try and pick up little gotcha cases where there have been perhaps unwitting violations of consumer protection law, and they use that to exploit the companies that were involved. And that's not an appropriate way to enforce consumer protection law. And so I have to respectfully oppose the bill today because of that. And I want to encourage you, as the bill moves forward here, to consider changing the enforcement to be governmental, attorneys general, district attorneys, city attorneys, because I think that's a much more appropriate venue to bring action in cases like this.
Additional comments or questions? Seeing none, let me thank the senator for bringing this bill forward. I think overall it's a good measure. It's a very good measure. I just want to address some of the issues raised. And let me say that under the Fourth Amendment, any law enforcement, either federal or otherwise, when they demand for these records would require a warrant. I think the bill only limits the voluntary disclosure of these records to third parties, if I'm not mistaken, including federal law enforcement. Is that not correct? That is correct. So I think I'm comfortable with supporting the bill as is, but I do want to ask the senator to follow up on some of the suggestions that have been raised today, and if to the extent if you can provide us with information that's been requested as well, that would be good.
Work on human trafficking cases. Again, in regards to my good friend Mr. Obernolte, this is a company that's willingly giving out information. I think it's appropriate for us to be able to, folks that are seeking remedies, be able to have access to those, as opposed to a data breach, which is very different. So, and I respectfully ask for I vote.
Thank you very much. I'd like to entertain a motion. The bills has been moved and seconded. The recommendation is to pass as amended to the floor, to the assembly floor. So with that, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Motion is due pass as amended to the assembly floor. Chow.
Aye.
Chow, aye. Kylie. Baker. Berman. Calderon. Calderon, aye. Gabriel. Gabriel, aye. Irwin. Irwin, aye. Mullen. Mullen, aye. Obernolte. No. Obernolte, no. Reyes. Reyes, aye.
Your bill is out. 6 to
Thank you,
1.
Mr. Chair, members.
Thank you very much. So we'll let's go. Shall we go down? Before we do the roll call, let me take a minute to thank all my colleagues for being a part of this committee this past cycle. It's been great working with all of you, and including our newest member. Welcome, Mr. Gabriel. And also, I want to thank our staff for their diligent work. It's my understanding that Gerard, our Republican consultant, is with us for the last day today, and he's going to be joining member's office. So it's been great working with him to a large extent, and totally enjoy working with you. So best of luck to you, and we look forward to a good year. In fact, next year we don't know what's going to happen as far as the makeup of the committee is concerned. So hopefully you guys will be back, and hopefully I'll be here too. So, so it's been a wonderful experience working with all of you. Yes, Ms. Baker, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, just if you could indulge again, we really thank our consultant for his good work. He's been terrific. I think all the members of the committee, but including our caucus, especially so many of us have committees in other places at other times at the same time we're here, and just very grateful. And I know we all wish him well. Certainly our colleagues do in his next adventure.
Yes. Take a bow, take a bow. So with that, let's call the absent members on some of these bills. Should we just go down the list maybe? Let me, okay, let's, what bill number is this? Okay, what's the bill number? Oh, SB 327, Jackson, please call the absent members.
Berman. Aye. Berman, aye. That bill is, that's everyone's voted. Okay, that bill's out.
No, that bill is out. Next we have SB 838, that's Hertzberg. Please call the absent member.
Kylie. Berman. Aye. Berman, aye. Gabriel. Aye. Gabriel, aye. Reyes. Aye. Reyes, aye.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. That bill is out also. Just this bill is 20.
Berman. Berman.
That bill is out. And finally, we have Laura, SB 1194. Please call the absent members.
Kylie. Baker. Berman. Aye. Berman, aye. That's it.
We will of bills. Let's see. You only have two bills. 838 Hertzberg.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Kylie, I.
Kylie, aye. And the last bill is the Laura bill. SB 1194. Laura.
Kylie.
No.
Kylie, no.
Okay. Got it. Very good. So that should do it. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.